Now we go on to explain what autobiography is. So in our previous video, we have learned the definition of autobiography. Now let us see what autobiography is in details. There are various examples of autobiography, and there are also different types of autobiography. Many of the autobiographies are written in fictional ways. So, through the fiction and through the fictions like David Copperfield by Charles Dickens and Selinger's The Catcher in the Rye, these are examples of novels or fictions which have autobiographical elements. That means the experiences of the author has been narrated through different characters to show the autobiographical elements. And when we read the author's life, we will be able to relate to many things which are found in the fiction that they have written. Now, let us check some autobiographies, examples of autobiography. One of the United States' forefathers wrote prolifically about news, life, and common sense. His readings, quotes, and advice are still used today, and his face is on the $100 bill. Benjamin Franklin's good advice is still used through his sayings, such as, "We are all born ignorant, but one must work hard to remain stupid." He is also the one who penned the saying that's seen all over many schools: "Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn." His autobiography is full of his adventures, philosophy about life, and his wisdom. His autobiography shows us how much he valued education through his anecdotes or stories of his constant attempts to learn and improve himself. He also covers his many ideas on his inventions and his thoughts as he worked with others in helping the United States become free from England. Here we also have we also can see on the screen that about autobiography. Patricia Mayer Spex has observed that people do make themselves up. To read an autobiography is to encounter a self as an imaginative being. So in order to write an autobiography, one has to take up the technique of narrative technique one has to use. So in doing that, the imagination of the person has to be very active to remember what has happened in life and to connect those happenings to express in the autobiography is in a way arousing one's imaginative being. Some of the examples of autobiographical prose are Imitating the Style of the Spectator by Benjamin Franklin, Langston Hughes's On Harlem, On the Street by Emma Goldman, Ritual in Maya Angelou's Caged Bird, The Turbid Ebb and Flow of Misery by Margaret Sanger, Two Ways of Seeing Our River by Mark Twain. So these are some of the examples of autobiographical prose writing, which are very famous and read widely. Some of the elements of autobiography: characters are well developed in detail. and are true to life. So, like any other fictional work, autobiography too has characters in the narrative, because the person himself becomes the character of the narrative. Setting is also described vividly. There is, the setting keeps on changing with the change in the life of the person, or the movement of the person from one place to another. The setting may change. Details are very interesting. Why? The author tries to engage the readers to understand what kind of life he or she has lived. Now, details are mostly objective, and in anecdotes, their life stories are narrated. Both objective and subjective details are used. Some other elements are, subjective details are based on personal feelings and opinions and cannot be proved. So subjective details are something that are related to the person in self, exclusively to the person. So those feelings, the feelings and opinions may not be possible to be proved. Anecdotes are short, often humorous stories that enliven writing and illustrate a point. So anecdotes are short, like there in our lives there are some short kind of moments which we like to share with our friends. So those are kind of anecdotes which are mostly short experiences of life. Chronological order is the order in which real life events occur and the order in which most writers of autobiographies tell their stories. Often events are arranged from childhood to adulthood. Mostly in traditional form of autobiography, the chronology of one's life is maintained. That is, the autobiography is written from childhood to adulthood. The events of life are organized in that way. So that is what we learn about autobiography and the elements, specifically the elements of autobiography. There are also many types of autobiography. The types of autobiography, there are many types of autobiography. Authors must decide what purpose they have for writing about their lives, and then they can choose the format that would best tell their story. Most of these types all share common goals: helping themselves face an issue by writing it down, helping others overcome similar events, or simply telling their story. One type is full autobiography, which is traditional. This would be the complete life story starting from birth through childhood, young adulthood, and up to the present time at which the book is being written. Authors might choose this if their whole lives were very different from others and could be considered interesting. Another is memoir. There are many types of memoir: place, time, philosophic, their theory on life, occupational. A memoir is a snapshot of a person's life. It focuses on one specific part that stands out as a learning experience or worth sharing. Memoir is actually considered very different from autobiography, but this is also an autobiographical writing. Autobiographies, there are also autobiographies which are confessional, where people confess about some guilt or about some wrongdoing, wrong things that has happened to them. There are also autobiographies which are spiritual. It depends on the person who writes the autobiography. Now, there are also other elements of autobiography, like point of view. As we know that the point of view of the author is given in an autobiography. What the person has experienced, felt in life, that is reflected in the autobiography. and that is the first person point of view. And the author's purpose, it is the author's reason for writing, why the author is writing the autobiography. The reason of the author behind writing the autobiography is also reflected in the autobiography and is also an element of autobiography. Authors of autobiographies often want to make sense of events in their lives and to communicate an important personal statement about life. So these are the basic elements of autobiography. Other than the types, these are the elements.